Hello. Hello everyone, Pablo here, and on this fine day, I wanted to do the mid-year freakout book tag thingy, and I thought, right, I have not read enough books to do this tag. So instead, I'm just going to do a ranking of the books that I've read in 2021. That's it. No huge introduction as per usual. Let's get on it. Rage of Dragons. This was quite a surprising read, and I buddy read it with the House of Dragons, and it was quite a good book. The beginning was not the best. Beginning, it was a bit. I remember thinking it's a bit out of place, like a lot of terms. It felt like I needed to catch up on a lot of things. And I wasn't enjoying it. But the second you settle into the story, like 100 pages in, it is so good. The plot is really fast. It feels like it's a continuous thing. It's like it propels you to read the whole story, and I could not. It's one of those books that you cannot stop reading. It's very readable. The language is good. The world building is good. And there is a lot of the world building is particularly good because it's very original. It moves away from the medieval English setting for fantasy. I'm sure it's not the first book that does it, but it's the first book that I've come across, and it's the first book that I think is got quite big in the fantasy community. All in all, the bad aspects of the Rage of Dragons, with time, they have disappeared, and I cannot think of a solid bad thing except for the beginning. So I'm going to give it a solid. It doesn't reach the absolute unit of a book, but it's up there. Right, The Shadow of the Gods. This is the last book that I read, the most recent book that I finished, and I have to say I liked it. It's a solid book. It's got really good atmospheric, vibes, and it really immerses you in the story. It's got good characters. It's got really original characters in terms of what they do with the story. I don't want to get into spoilers, but we don't see a lot of fantasy where the protagonist, or one of the main protagonists, is a mum that is looking for her son, which was kidnapped, and we see the story from the perspective of the mom. It is a revenge story in some of the aspects. The problem I have with Shadow of the Gods is that's why I give it such a good. That's why I give it a different segment in my book reviews. It's the sensation, the post-reading sensation, and how you feel around the reading of the book that has nothing to do with the quality of the book. And it felt rushed. When I was finishing my community medicine placement, and we sort of had already pushed it back, and we needed, because I did it with House of Dragons again, and we needed to review it, and it just felt like it was too forced. That I read it without really wanting to read it. That's why it didn't quite click with me. And also the fact that I read the first half of the book and listened to the second half of the book in audiobook format. And this is something that we were discussing in Massa's channel. I will leave a link for the video. But it is, I think it was Raoul that brought up the fact that maybe it's because it's fantasy, and audiobook in fantasy is not the best format if you're not familiar with the world at stake, at hand. Lots of terms that you had to catch up, lots of pronunciation that changes from what you would internalize it from the page, and characters, and you don't have a map. So I think that for now, I'm going to say that physical format is the go-to format when it comes to fantasy. Shadow of the Gods is going to get a meh from me, and it's not to do It's not to do with the quality of the book. It's entirely to do with how I felt around the reading of the book, around the process. Next up, we've got the Secret Healers of the Academy. Right, I wasn't going to include this book in the tier list, but I did read it. It was you know, a book that I've read, so it's technically, it fits the criteria. But I did create a whole new section for it in the tier list, which is Unfinished Vibes. I've already mentioned this. It doesn't feel finished. It feels like it needs a lot of editing, more beta reading. Yeah, it feels unfinished. And also, I wanted to include it because of the fact that making its analysis, like the video I made about it, the editorial commentary, I learned a lot from that video, because I had to sit down, and when you deliver, I'm not going to say negative criticism, but constructive criticism, it is a big responsibility, and because you don't, like, you are treating someone's finished work, and you well, in their heads finished, and you want to be respectful. And I learned a lot from the writing of the script for that video. I normally I do like a mismatch of scripted and non-scripted videos, primarily non-scripted when I have no time. For that one, it was very scripted. It was fully, well, the whole of it was scripted because I wanted to do it right. So yes, Unfinished Vibes, not a book I'm counting in the tier list. The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. If you've been following my reviews and my discussions, every time I start a new book, inevitably I compare it with The Blade Itself. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because lately I've been reading more of a grim, darky books, or I think it's because of the huge impact that it made on my tastes at the moment. Even on the things that I'm writing, it's that grim, dark feeling is permeating through my work. And the thing about The Blade Itself is that it feels like the characters that I've read in that book are the best in any book that I've ever read. The way that they interact, the way that they, the humor, the wit that they have dealing with the world and interactions, it receives the ranking of absolute unit, an absolute unit of a book. For me to have something being that referent in my liking, and to race to the top in terms of my interest, well, yeah, I think it's probably, I haven't finished the tier list, but I think it's probably the best book I've read in 2021. Okay, Shadow and Bone, right? The Shadow and Bone saga in my channel. I'm quite happy that I got into the whole thing. I'm happy that I decided to do the trailer on a whim, and I'm happy that I read the book, because I don't think it's YA fantasy, not the kind of thing that I normally tend to go for. But I'm happy I did, because it is a good start. I know people keep reminding me, don't solely just read this trilogy. Go into the Six of Crow duology, read that, and I will. I definitely will. I don't know when, but I will. But I think the Shadow and Bone book, it was a good introduction to the Grishaverse, and I will keep on it. I'm gonna give it a solid. It was a good book. Okay. Should I put it in meh? I feel like maybe I should have done a second, like a bit, another tier between solid and meh. It was a solid book. Characterization, okay, is a YA book. Plot-wise, solid. World building, probably the best aspect of the book. Yeah, I'm happy with solid. Rhythm of War. And this was the first book that I finished in 2021. It's my least favorite of the Stormlight Archive, and I'll probably do a whole video on like ranking Cosmere books, but I think that Rhythm of War, it just, with time, my opinion of the book has marinated over time, and I feel like the ending was incredible. Of course, the Sunderland prevails, but there was a lot of fluff in the book. It was a lot of fluff, and I think inconsequential fluff that could have been trimmed down a lot. That's the reason why I'm going to give it a meh. I'm going to give it a meh, and all Sanderson fans out there understand that I am still a Sander fan, and I'm not going to stop reading Sanderson books because I think he's probably the most influential and the most popular, one of the most popular fantasy authors of the current scene. But Rhythm of War, I don't think it was the best book in the Stronghold Archive, and it lacked a bit. Okay, American Gods. American Gods was solid. American Gods was actually no. I think American Gods was an absolute unit of a book. It's going to be up there. The way that it transported me and the way that it explored themes that are not normally prominent in the fantasy books that I read, it catapulted it to the very top. It's the first book that I read by Neil Gaiman, and it certainly is caught my attention, and I'm going to read more Neil Gaiman books because it really, the narrative style and the ability to impregnate with your personality and with your own tone, your own vibe. It's very rare that you start reading a book and not knowing a lot about the author, and you feel like, yes, I feel like this is the author's voice. This is Gaiman's writing. That is so rare. Next up, we've got Hero of Ages, the Hero of Ages. I did the review not long ago, and I feel like it was a very solid ending to a very solid trilogy. The way that it brought all of it together, the characters were probably still, as I said, the least strong aspect of the book, but the plot is just incredible. Like the ability that Sanderson has to has this overarching narrative and respect the narrative and include tiny snippets that all are interlinked together and bring it to such a satisfying conclusion. That's very difficult to do. Even now, from my writing perspective, like being able to plot in advance with that amount of detail and being able to bring all of the relevant plot points to the page and make it so fulfilling for the reader. Absolute unit of a book. Absolute unit of a book. Okay, the last book is Cory Doctorow's Homeland, and I made this review quite a long time ago, maybe 4 months ago. It is not a known book, and it is not fantasy. It's dystopian, and Cory Doctorow is not really known outside of like in the fantasy community, obviously, because he doesn't write fantasy. He's more of a science fiction dystopian guy. I recommend this book to anyone that is interested in any current events in the world, in the way that we handle data and information and government surveillance, the way that copyright affects our lives or lack thereof. It is a really good story that analyzes a lot of very hot topics and a lot of issues that you really need to think about, and it is a very different read. I'm going to give it a solid. It's not by any means the most prominent book in my head that I've read in 2021, but it is a solid read. Okay, that's pretty much it for today. It's a very chill video. Charlie, please. And that is it. I quite like this video. In terms of reminiscing about the books that I've read and perhaps realizing that I haven't read a lot. But also, I need to find a way to keep track of all this because I really do not like Goodreads. So maybe I'll do like a section in my webpage. Go and visit my website, please. Like, it's been a bit sad, but posts are coming in the future, I promise. Yeah, maybe I'll do a section on how to on the books that I'm reading, and a tiny remark, not necessarily a big review per se, just the books I've read. Okay, I'm starting to rumble. Hope you likes. Hope you guys liked the video. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe for more if you like the kind of content that I'm making, and I will see you in the next one. Indeed.